Some of you may have seen my recent article in the Globe and Mail, in which I wrote about what I want and need if and when I become frail. Happily, like many, I have reached the status of being elderly, but not yet frail. What stimulated me to write that article were two things. The immediate one was my wife's diagnosis of cancer and the rapid onset of her frailty. The longer-term stimulus was my coming to the realization that after 8 decades, it's time to get real about the fact that the end of my life is not distant anymore, and I need to be better prepared than I am. As a good friend of mine says, there are no exceptions. At Cambridge, there's the famous story of Lord Rutherford going one morning into the lab where the atom was first split and announcing to his team, "Gentlemen, we're out of money. We'll have to think." Well, folks, we're running out of time and we'll have to think. The first thing I've been thinking about is how best to remain hale and hearty, how to avoid becoming anybody's patient, and how to escape, or at least slow down, the process of becoming frail. The second is to write down my values and what it is that I want and need if and when I do become frail, unable to express my wishes clearly and dependent on other people for my well-being. And third, how can I best make my wishes known to my future caregivers so that they won't charge off and do things to me that I don't want done? I've adopted a simple and straightforward recipe for delaying the onset of frailty. Basically, I follow the directions my mother gave me when I was a child. Get lots of sleep, follow Canada's food guide, and keep moving. When your feet hit the floor every morning, first rejoice, and then look ahead to the pleasure you're going to get out of today. That walk in the park, that visit with your granddaughter, whatever. This same recipe will be as good at slowing the progression of frailty as it is at fending it off in the first place. The second thing I've been thinking about is my advance directive. In it, I give clear instructions on what I want done if, say, I were to keel over someday, lose my capacity to communicate, or suffer some other catastrophic event. I have incorporated that advance directive into a legal text prepared by my lawyer, so there is no doubt that it has been prepared without my being coerced by anybody, that I am still sound enough of mind to be credible, and that my directions are consistent with the laws of the land. The other important thing I have done is to have good, long, and detailed talks with my son and grandsons. My son is my legally designated attorney for personal care, something he has been as a result of my preparation some years ago of a living will. The advance directive is like a living will, but it sets out in considerably more detail what you want or don't want done if your attorney for personal care is not available when some event occurs that renders you unable to speak for yourself. You want physicians and other caregivers to know what you want done to you. And finally, how and to whom will I communicate my advance directive? I will send signed copies to all my family, my physician, my lawyer, my clergy person, and every hospital in my area, directing that it be given a prominent place in my file, my health record, or whatever. That none of us has available a centrally stored electronic health and medical record is a source of great and continuing frustration to me. That would be the best place to communicate my advance directive to everybody involved. Such a genuine record system would also provide us all, and our province and country, with many other benefits. But that's a discussion for another day. To sum up, as an old but not yet frail guy, I'm thinking hard about three big things: how to stay healthy and avoid frailty and delay its progression as long as I can. Second, writing my advance directive so that those who may have to speak and care for me when I do become frail will know what my values and wishes are. And finally, communicating that advance directive as widely as possible to ensure that if a catastrophic event were to occur, my physicians and other caregivers will adhere to my values and honor my wishes as I come to the end of my life. By my personal participation in my future care, what I hope to do is put the responsibility for decision-making where it belongs, on my own shoulders. Too often, it seems to me, patients who ought to be the central players in every episode of care wind up being more in the nature of bystanders, especially when they are not able to speak for themselves. Under those circumstances, their substitute decision makers, family members, physicians, and other caregivers may well not know and may disagree about what Aunt Tilly would want when a decision about her treatment is required. My intention is to make clear, well in advance, what I want done and what I don't want done. I want to take that responsibility onto myself and to lift it from my family members, my friends, my caregivers, and from the healthcare system as a whole. The so-called system is there for us as citizens. We need to participate in it as the autonomous individuals we are. And finally, I keep in mind that speaking of frailty and death is not a morbid topic. It's something we all need to do in straightforward, matter-of-fact terms with our families, our physicians, and friends. Like birth, youth, maturation, and old age, frailty and death are facts of life. Indeed, there are no exceptions.